The CFO thought firing me would bury her paper trail, but she didn't know I had the server logs sitting in my safe at home. My name is Frank Caldwell. I'm 59 years old, and I spent 24 years building every piece of digital infrastructure at Summit Financial. Every server, every backup protocol, every security firewall. All of it came from my hands, my weekends, my missed dinners, and they fired me on a Tuesday at 2:47 p.m. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I joined Summit back when the company ran on paper ledgers and prayer. Chicago in the 90s. The office smelled like old coffee and cigarette smoke that had seeped into the carpet tiles. I'd just finished my 12 years in the Navy, communications, and electronic warfare, and I was looking for something stable. Something I could build. The founder, Richard Whitfield, hired me himself, shook my hand in his office overlooking Michigan Avenue, and said, "Frank, I don't need a tech guy who knows everything. I need one who can figure anything out." I figured out plenty. When Y2K panic hit, I was the one who spent 3 months auditing every line of legacy code. Slept on a cot in the server room. My wife brought me dinner in Tupperware containers. She'd sit with me while I ate, not saying much, just keeping me company while the servers hummed around us. She passed away 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. I was reviewing a firewall upgrade when the hospital called. I made it in time to hold her hand. Barely. After that, the job became everything. Not because I loved it more than her, because it was all I had left. I built Summit's first secure network when everyone else was still using dial-up modems. I designed the encryption protocols that let us handle institutional clients. When we got hacked in 2014, a serious breach that should have cost us our banking license, I worked 72 hours straight, tracing the intrusion back to a server farm in Estonia. Patched every vulnerability. Wrote a 340-page incident report. Testified before the regulators. The board gave me a bonus that year, $12,000. Richard Whitfield handed me an engraved pen from his desk. Sterling silver. His initials and mine on the clip. "This company doesn't exist without you, Frank," he said. Richard retired 3 years ago. Heart problems. His daughter took over as CEO, and she brought in her own people. Finance types. MBA types. People who talked about digital transformation like it was something you could order from a catalog. That's when Brenda Ellis arrived. Chief Financial Officer. Stanford, MBA. Spoke in complete paragraphs about operational synergies and leveraging core competencies. She had a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows and an espresso machine that cost more than my first car. I didn't trust her. Call it instinct. Call it pattern recognition from 2 decades of watching data flow through systems. Money has a rhythm when it moves correctly. Regular, predictable, documented. Brenda's numbers had hiccups. Small ones at first, vendor payments that didn't match purchase orders, consulting fees to companies I'd never heard of. I started keeping notes, just observations, timestamps, and transaction IDs, the kind of thing that looks like nothing until you spread it across a timeline. Then, 6 months ago, she brought in Justin Wheeler. If you've ever had a boss like this, hit that like button and subscribe, because you'll understand exactly what happened next. Justin was 31 years old. Northwestern MBA. Teeth so white, they looked like bathroom tiles. He had that haircut, you know the one, shaved on the sides, perfectly styled on top, like he was auditioning for a cologne commercial. Brenda introduced him at the department meeting as our new Director of Technology Modernization. Director of Technology Modernization. At a company where I'd built every system from the ground up. Justin smiled at me across the conference table. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Frank," he said, "I've heard so much about you. The institutional knowledge you bring is really valuable. But I think it's time we talked about bringing Summit into the cloud era." Cloud era. We'd been running hybrid cloud infrastructure for 8 years. I designed it myself. "We're already there," I said. He tilted his head like I'd said something amusing. Legacy thinking, he said. That's exactly the kind of resistance to change we need to address. Over the next 3 months, Justin held 17 meetings about strategic technology alignment. I was invited to 4 of them. In those 4 meetings, he presented slides with graphics of clouds and lightning bolts and words like agile and scalable and future-proof. He never once asked me how our systems actually worked, but he asked plenty of questions about my access credentials, about who had administrator rights, about why certain backup processes ran at certain times. I answered honestly, because I didn't think he'd understand what I was telling him. He didn't. The Tuesday they fired me, I was in the server room running a routine diagnostic. The smell of ozone and cold circulating air. Racks of hardware humming in the blue glow of status lights. 24 years of my life, organized in neat rows of blinking indicators. Justin appeared in the doorway with Brenda behind him. She was holding a manila folder. "Frank," Justin said, "got a minute?" We went to conference room B, the one with the frosted glass and the fake plant in the corner. There was an HR representative I didn't recognize sitting at the table. Young woman. Couldn't have been 30. She had a tablet in front of her and wouldn't make eye contact. "Have a seat," Justin said. I sat. Brenda stayed standing by the door, arms crossed, watching. "Frank," Justin said, "I'll get right to it. We're restructuring the technology department to align with our modernization initiatives. Your position is being eliminated." He slid the manila folder across the table. "This is your separation package. 2 weeks severance for every year of service. Very generous. I think you'll agree." I looked at the folder. Didn't open it. "I see," I said. "Your access credentials have already been revoked," Justin continued. "Building security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. We'll need your badge and any company property before you leave." He smiled that cologne commercial smile. "I want to thank you for your years of service, Frank. Really, you built something important here, but the company needs fresh perspectives now. People who understand where technology is heading." I looked at Brenda. She was studying something on her phone. "Anything you'd like to say?" Justin asked. I thought about the server logs I'd been copying for 6 months. Every suspicious transaction. Every routing anomaly. Every payment to Whitfield Consulting LLC, a vendor that didn't exist before last year and shared a registered address with a condo in Lake Forest. A condo owned by Brenda's son. $2.8 million. That's what I'd documented so far. But I suspected more. I thought about the encrypted backups sitting in a fireproof safe in my basement. 3 drives, triple redundancy, chain of custody documented. "No," I said. "I understand perfectly." Justin's smile flickered. Just for a moment, like he'd expected something else. "Great," he said. "Really professional, Frank. I appreciate that." The HR representative finally looked up. "Mr. Caldwell, if you'll sign the acknowledgement on page 3, we can begin processing your severance." I signed. Clean signature, steady hand. The security guard who walked me to my office was a kid named Danny, early 20s. I'd helped him set up his mother's Wi-Fi router last Thanksgiving. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell," he said quietly. "Don't be," I said. "You're doing your job." I packed 1 box. The silver pen from Richard, a photo of my wife, a coffee mug my daughter gave me that said, "World's Okayest Tech Guy." 24 years in 1 cardboard box. At the elevator, I turned around one last time. Justin was standing at the end of the hallway with his arms crossed, making sure I actually left. I nodded at him. He didn't nod back. The elevator doors closed. If you've ever had someone think they buried you when they actually just set you free, hit that like button and subscribe. The drive home took 43 minutes. Rush hour traffic on the Kennedy. I didn't turn on the radio. Just watched the brake lights stretch out ahead of me like a river of red. My phone buzzed twice. Texts from colleagues. I didn't read them. When I got home, my daughter's car was in the driveway. Sarah. She's 34 now. Works in marketing downtown. She has a key for emergencies, but she'd been stopping by more often since her mother passed. Dad? She was in the kitchen when I walked in with my cardboard box. What happened? They let me go. They what? I set the box on the counter, took out the silver pen, looked at it for a moment, then put it back. 24 years, Sarah said. They can't just... They can, I said. They did. She started pacing. That's what she does when she's angry. Gets it from her mother. We should call a lawyer. This has to be wrongful termination. Age discrimination. Something. Maybe, I said, but not tonight. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon. The good stuff. Woodford Reserve I'd been saving for nothing in particular. Dad, you're being too calm about this. I took a sip. Let it burn. Am I? That night, after Sarah left, I went down to the basement. The fireproof safe sat in the corner behind my workbench. Combination lock. I'd changed it 3 months ago to my wife's birthday. Inside were 3 portable drives. Western Digital, 4 terabytes each. Every log file, every transaction record, every email backup I'd quietly mirrored over the past 6 months. I'd started copying them the day I noticed the first anomaly. Just in case. The Navy taught me that. Always have a backup plan. Always document everything. Always assume someone is watching. What I found was bigger than vendor fraud. Brenda Ellis had been funneling money to Whitfield Consulting LLC since January of the previous year. Small amounts at first, $50,000 here, $75,000 there, always just under the threshold that would trigger automatic board review. But the amounts grew, and the documentation got sloppier. By my count, $2.8 million had flowed to that fake vendor. But when I cross-referenced the payment authorizations with the actual accounting ledgers, I found discrepancies. Money that was supposed to go to legitimate vendors that never arrived. Invoices that were duplicated across multiple quarters. The real total was $8.2 million. $8.2 million, stolen from Summit Financial over 18 months. And I had the receipts. I spent 3 days organizing everything, created a timeline, cross-referenced transaction IDs, built a chain of evidence that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. Then I made a phone call. Howard Brennan, senior board member, 71 years old. He'd been on the board since Richard Whitfield founded the company. We'd met at a Christmas party once, years ago, and I'd helped his grandson recover data from a crashed laptop. He'd sent me a bottle of scotch as a thank you. Frank, he said when he answered, I heard about what happened. Shameful business. Howard, I need to show you something. In person. Before the quarterly board meeting. Silence on the line. This about the termination? This is about $8.2 million. More silence. Come to my house tomorrow, 3 o'clock. And Frank, don't tell anyone we're meeting. Howard's house was in Winnetka. Old money. Oak trees in the yard and a study that smelled like leather and pipe tobacco. We sat in wingback chairs while I walked him through the evidence. His face got progressively grayer as I talked. He shook his head. This is catastrophic. It's fraud, I said. Federal fraud. The kind that brings auditors and handcuffs. And you have all of this documented? I handed him a drive. Every transaction. Every timestamp. Every email where Brenda authorized payments to a company owned by her son. Howard stared at the drive like it might bite him. The executive bonus meeting is Friday, he said. Brenda's due for a $1.2 million payout. I know. If we approve that before this comes out, the board becomes complicit. Fiduciary breach, possibly criminal liability. Howard leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes. Jesus Christ, Frank. I'm not telling you what to do, I said, but I thought someone should know before the money moved. I stood up to leave. Frank. Howard's voice stopped me at the door. Why didn't you bring this forward sooner, while you were still employed? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because I wanted to be sure, I said, and because I knew what would happen if I was wrong. They'd destroy me. Call me a disgruntled employee. Say I fabricated evidence. I needed to be outside the building before this detonated. Howard nodded slowly. Smart bastard, he said, quietly, almost to himself. I learned from the best, I said. Richard always said to figure things out. I figured this out. I drove home and waited. Friday morning, 8:15 a.m. My phone started buzzing. First text, 8:17 a.m. Frank, something's happening at Summit. Board went into emergency session. Mike. Mike was a network admin I'd trained 6 years ago. Second text, 8:32 a.m. Holy shit. FBI is here. Mike. Third text, 8:41 a.m. They're taking Brenda's computer. Justin looks like he's going to pass out. Mike. I was sitting on my back deck with Rex, my lab, when the calls started coming in. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Summit Financial main line. Declined. Unknown number with a Chicago area code. Declined. Justin Wheeler Mobile. Declined. A number I recognized as the board secretary. Declined. Rex looked up at me, head tilted, like he was asking a question. Not yet, I said. At 9:15 a.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Caldwell, this is Howard Brennan. We need to speak. The board has questions. Please call at your earliest convenience. I read it, set the phone down, poured myself coffee. At 10:30 a.m., an email landed in my personal inbox. Subject line, Urgent, Summit Financial Board of Directors. I didn't open it. At 11:47 a.m., a black sedan pulled into my driveway. Government plates. 2 men in dark suits got out. FBI credentials. They wanted to ask me questions about my time at Summit Financial, about what I'd observed, about any documentation I might have. I invited them in, made them coffee, answered everything truthfully. Mr. Caldwell, the older agent said, flipping his notebook closed, you kept very thorough records. I was in the Navy, I said. Electronic warfare. You learned to document everything. These backups you mentioned, you still have them? I provided copies to a board member. I have the originals. We're going to need those. I assumed you would. Chain of custody is documented. Timestamps verified. I can provide sworn testimony if needed. The agents exchanged a look. You've done this before, the younger one said. No, I said. I just pay attention. After they left, I checked my phone. 23 missed calls, 47 text messages, 12 emails marked urgent. I turned the phone face down and went back to the deck. Rex followed me out. The afternoon sun was warm. Lake breeze coming off Lake Michigan, carrying the smell of spring. My phone buzzed against the table. I glanced at the screen. Howard Brennan. I let it ring. 1, 2, 3 times. Then I picked it up. Frank, Howard said, the board needs to see you. Today, if possible. I'm available. 4 o'clock, main conference room. And Frank? Yes? Bring your terms. Click. I sat with that for a moment. Bring your terms. 24 years, and they'd never once asked me what I wanted, what I thought, what I needed to do my job properly. Now they were asking. Rex nudged my hand with his nose. I scratched behind his ears. All right, I said to no one. Let's see how this plays out. I showered, put on my good suit, the charcoal one I'd worn to my wife's funeral. Seemed appropriate somehow. An ending and a beginning. The drive to Summit took 38 minutes. No traffic this time. The city looked different in the late afternoon light. Cleaner, like someone had wiped the grime off the windows. The parking garage was half empty. I pulled into a visitor spot near the elevator. Sat there for a minute with the engine off. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Dad, I heard about the FBI raid. Are you okay? Call me. I typed back, I'm fine. Handling it. Talk tonight. The lobby was quiet when I walked in. The security guard at the desk, a woman I didn't recognize, checked her screen 3 times before issuing me a visitor badge. Conference room A, Mr. Caldwell, 18th floor. I know where it is, I said. I designed the badge system. She didn't know what to say to that. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. 18 floors of humming cables and my own reflection in the brushed steel doors. I looked older than I remembered, tired around the eyes, but something else too, something steadier. The doors opened. The hallway was empty except for a junior analyst I vaguely recognized. She was carrying a stack of folders and nearly dropped them when she saw me. Mr. Caldwell, she said, I didn't know you were, I heard about Conference room A. End of the hall. They're waiting. I walked past her, past the offices I'd spent 2 decades filling with the hum of properly functioning systems, past the server room door with the keypad I'd personally programmed, past Brenda's corner office. The door was open, crime scene tape across the entrance. Her Nespresso machine sat on the desk, unplugged. The floor-to-ceiling windows looked out on nothing now, just empty sky. Conference room A had glass walls and a 30-foot mahogany table. I'd sat at this table exactly 4 times in 24 years, always at the far end, always taking notes while other people made decisions. Today, there was a single chair waiting at the head of the table. A brass nameplate sat in front of it. Mr. Caldwell. The board was already assembled. Howard Brennan at the center. 6 other members I recognized from annual reports. Richard Whitfield's daughter, Catherine, sat at Howard's right hand. She looked like she'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen her. And at the far end of the table, as far from the head as possible, sat Justin Wheeler. His cologne commercial hair was disheveled. His tie was loosened. He had the look of a man who'd spent the last 8 hours watching his career collapse in real time. Frank, Howard said, thank you for coming. I walked to the head of the table. Didn't sit. I wasn't sure I would, I said, given how our last conversation in this building ended. Justin flinched. Mr. Caldwell. Catherine Whitfield's voice was thin, stretched. I want to apologize personally for how your termination was handled. It was done without proper board oversight and without my knowledge. I looked at Justin. He couldn't meet my eyes. The termination was Mr. Wheeler's decision, Catherine continued. Acting on what we now understand were instructions from Mrs. Ellis. Brenda told me to do it, Justin said. The words came out fast, desperate. She said Frank was a liability, that he was resistant to change, that he'd slow down the modernization. Mr. Wheeler. Howard's voice cut like a blade. You're here as a courtesy. I suggest you use it wisely. Justin shut his mouth. I pulled out the chair, sat down, took my time. Let me tell you what I know, I said, and then you can tell me what you want. I opened the folder I'd brought. Single sheets of paper, timeline, transaction records, email excerpts. Brenda Ellis began funneling money to Whitfield Consulting, LLC in January of last year. The company is registered to a condo in Lake Forest owned by her son, Tyler Ellis. First payment was $47,500, categorized as strategic consulting services. No deliverables, no contract, no work performed. I slid the first sheet across the table. Over the next 18 months, payments escalated. $75,000, $125,000, $340,000 in a single quarter. Always just under the threshold, requiring automatic board review. By my initial count, $2.8 million. Second sheet. But when I cross-referenced the payment authorizations with actual vendor disbursements, I found additional discrepancies. Legitimate invoices that were duplicated. Payments to real vendors that were short by precise amounts, matching deposits to the fake consulting company. The actual total is $8.2 million. Third sheet. Every transaction is documented. Server logs, email backups, authorization codes, chain of custody verified. The FBI has copies. So does the SEC, as of this morning. The room was silent. Howard's face had gone the color of old paper. Mr. Caldwell. Catherine's voice was barely above a whisper. How long have you known about this? 6 months. I started documenting when I noticed anomalies in the payment routing. I didn't come forward because I knew how it would look. Disgruntled employee making accusations. I needed to be thorough, and I needed to be outside the building when this went public. I looked at Justin. Brenda had you fire me because she knew I was getting close. She told you I was dead weight because she needed me gone before the quarterly audit. You were her instrument. You didn't know what you were doing. Justin's face was gray. His hands were shaking. I didn't, he swallowed hard. I swear I didn't know about any of this. She said it was about modernization, about bringing in fresh thinking. She said you were resistant to change. I built every system in this company, I said. I designed the security protocols that should have caught this. Brenda knew that. That's why she wanted me out. Mr. Wheeler. Howard's voice was ice. You terminated a 24-year employee without board approval, without HR review, and without consulting legal counsel. You did this at the instruction of someone who was actively defrauding this company. Do you have anything else to say? Justin opened his mouth. Closed it. I think I need a lawyer, he said. That would be advisable. Howard nodded to someone behind me. Security will escort Mr. Wheeler to his office to collect his personal belongings. His access credentials have been revoked. The same words, the same procedure. I watched Justin stand. His legs were unsteady. A security guard I recognized, Danny, the kid I'd helped with his mother's Wi-Fi, appeared at his elbow. This way, Mr. Wheeler. Justin looked at me one last time. Frank, Save it, I said. Danny led him out. The door closed with a soft click. Silence. Mr. Caldwell. Catherine Whitfield folded her hands on the table. The board would like to offer you a position. I assumed. Chief Information Security Officer. New position, reports directly to the board, not to the CEO. Full authority over all cybersecurity and data integrity matters. And, she blinked, and, you said to bring my terms. I'm guessing you have more to offer than a title. Howard almost smiled. Almost. Salary increase of 40% over your previous compensation, Catherine said. Restored benefits. Full back pay for the period of your termination, plus an additional settlement for wrongful dismissal. I appreciate that, I said, but I want something else. Name it. I leaned back in my chair. Independent budget control for the security department. No interference from finance. No approval needed from anyone below board level for operational expenses under $200,000. Catherine looked at Howard. He nodded. Agreed, she said. And one more thing. Yes? Veto power on any check over $55,000. Any payment that exceeds that threshold gets flagged to my office. I can hold it for 72 hours for review before it processes. The board members exchanged glances. That's unprecedented, someone said. A man I didn't recognize. Silver hair, expensive suit. So was $8.2 million in fraud, I said. If someone had been watching the payments, this wouldn't have happened. I'm offering to watch. More silence. Mr. Caldwell. Howard leaned forward. You understand what you're asking for. Effective oversight of every significant financial transaction in this company. I understand exactly what I'm asking for, I said. I also understand that you're looking at shareholder lawsuits, SEC investigation, potential criminal liability for board members who approved bonuses during an active fraud. You need someone the regulators trust. Someone with documentation. proving they tried to stop this. I tapped the folder in front of me. That's me. Catherine looked down at the table, then at Howard, then at the other board members. All in favor? 7 hands went up. Unanimous. Motion carries, Howard said. Welcome back, Mr. Caldwell. He slid a folder across the table. Contract. 3 copies. I read every page, every clause, every fine print exception. Then I signed. Clean signature, steady hand. 3 weeks later. The corner office that used to belong to Brenda Ellis is empty now. They offered it to me. I said no. I took an office on the 14th floor, near the server room, near the systems I built. The nameplate on my door says Frank Caldwell, CISO. Below it, smaller letters, 24 years of service. I had them add that. The FBI investigation is ongoing. Brenda Ellis was arrested at O'Hare trying to board a flight to Grand Cayman. Her son is cooperating with federal prosecutors. The total fraud is now estimated at $8.7 million, with additional charges pending. Justin Wheeler resigned before he could be fired. Last I heard, he's working at a startup in Austin. Something about blockchain. I don't pay attention. Howard Brennan calls me every Tuesday at 9 a.m. just to check in, just to make sure I have what I need. Richard Whitfield sent me a letter last week. Handwritten. Shaky script, but every word clear. Frank, I always knew you were the one holding that place together. Thank you for proving me right. R.W. I keep the letter in my desk drawer, next to the silver pen. Last Saturday, I drove up to see Sarah. She made dinner. Pot roast, like her mother used to make. You seem different, Dad, she said. More relaxed, like you're actually here when you're here. Maybe I am, I said. After dinner, we sat on her porch, Rex at my feet, the sun going down over the trees. Are you happy? She asked. With how everything turned out, I thought about it. Really thought about it. Happy isn't the right word, I said, but I'm at peace. I did what needed doing. I protected something I spent 24 years building. And in the end, the truth came out. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Mom would be proud of you, she said. I hope so. I stayed until dark, drove home with the windows down, spring air smelling like cut grass and possibility. The next morning, I went to work early, walked through the server room, blue lights blinking, systems humming, everything in order, everything exactly as it should be. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens and drama. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in server logs and timestamps, in the patient documentation of someone who refused to look away. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply know what you know, and wait for the right moment to let others know it too. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.